Good evening, everyone. I am Richel, and we are already on our third session here for our subject Human Resources Management. And for tonight, the topic is about organization and individual relations and retention. Okay, so before we discuss further, we will have to lay down the foundation with our learning objectives here. So at the end of the session, you should be able to identify the nature of the psychological contract, discuss how motivation is linked to individual performance, understand the major drivers of retention and the activities related to them, describe different kinds of absenteeism and turnover, explain the ways to measure absenteeism and turnover, and outline the steps in managing retention. So, do you think guys are ready? Come on, let's go. Okay. We talk about organization and individual relationship. Okay, so when we say relationships, the relationships between individuals and their employing organizations, we call them employer, can vary widely. Okay, the individual's performance is a major part of whether the employer wants the employee to stay. So, therefore, understanding the relationship between individuals and organizations is more than just academically interesting, or it is more than just like an academic discussion. It is a reality, and it is the basis for employee retention. Okay, and that well the long-term economic health of most organizations depend on the efforts of employees with both appropriate capabilities and the motivation to do their jobs well. We say that people is the most important asset in the organization. So employees naturally are the most important asset in the organization. So it is to the advantage or to the best interest of most of the organizations if employees are well motivated and possess the appropriate capabilities. Okay, so organizations that are successful over time can actually demonstrate or usually demonstrate that relationships with their employees do really matter. Okay, so the key considerations in these relationships include psychological contract, job satisfaction, and loyalty. Okay, let's go first to psychological contract. Okay, so these are unwritten expectations employees and employers have about the nature of their work relationships. Okay, so the moment the employer would post a job vacancy, they already have expectations, and the moment that an applicant will send the application and eventually become an employee, so basically there are expectations involved. Okay, so as mentioned that these are unwritten expectations because there might be some aspects or areas of both sides in which they are not clearly defined, they are not clearly explained, and they are not well written in some documents such as employment contract, company policies, handbook, or whatever. Okay, and that since we may say, why is it called unwritten expectations? Because the psychological contract is individual and subjective. So, therefore, it focuses on expectations about fairness that may not be defined, like I said, and may not be clearly defined uh, by either party. Okay, and so expectations about both tangible items, example of the tangible items, part of the expectations would be like wages, benefits, productivity, of the employees and attendance. And intangible items also, such as loyalty, fair treatment, and job security, these are all encompassed by unwritten psychological contracts between employers and employees. Okay, no matter how well the employer would explain um, what the company can do or cannot do to the employees, still the employees would have some expectations. And no matter, okay, how well clear and transparent the employees' thoughts towards the job and um, towards the employer, essentially, employers would still have some expectations. Okay, now there are changing psychological contracts. Like I said, employees. What do employees expect from the employers? Okay, so employers are able to provide competitive compensation and increase productivity benefits. Okay, flexibility to balance work and home life. Well, basically, this is one aspect that most of the companies are or employees are struggling. Why? Because due to the demands of the work, employees' personal life will always be affected, will always be hostaged. Okay, so um, you know when employees would feel that the company promotes healthy work-life balance, so then they uh, tend to thrive within the organization. Okay. Third is career development opportunities. Employers should provide career development opportunities and, of course, opportunities in their professional career, and their work would be part of the expectations of the employees. And so, do the employers expect for the employees to contribute? Okay, one is continuous skill improvement, that the employees would manifest improvement in terms of abilities, capabilities, and competence. Okay, that would benefit um, largely to the organization. Second would be reasonable time within the organization. So eventually, when we say reasonable time within the organization, so the employers would expect the employees to be able to stay in the company for quite a reasonable period of time. Not just like, when you hire someone and then you would say, okay, sign the contract here and you will report tomorrow. Okay, and this is the time you're going to report, 8 a.m. And so, like, come tomorrow, you cannot see them, you don't hear them. Okay, or let's just say that, employees would just uh, be there for 3 months, okay, for 1 month. So it's unreasonable time. Okay, so employers expect the employees to stay within reasonable in the organization within the reasonable time. Okay, and then extra effort when needed. Okay, so which means that the employees should be able to uh, do the best that they can, okay, to do better with their work and to exert effort when it is necessary. And so that these items here, um, it may be difficult for us to level off really the expectations, but rather than identifying the characteristics cited for uh, um, or the factors, aspects involved in each of the perspectives. So it would be best for each of the party to focus on the aspects in which they can work together, okay, instead of focusing on the differences that they have. So it would be best that they come together, work together. Employers would let the employees feel that they are serious in keeping them, and then that they are able to provide them with the compensation, the benefits, and the career development. And so, like, employees also would be able to convince the employer that they are worth keeping, and so, like, they can improve, and that, you know, they can go an extra mile. All right, let's go to the generational differences. Okay, you might ask why I include this one. Okay, generational differences are likely to continue to create challenges and conflicts in organization. Why? Because there are different expectations inherent in different generations. Okay, and so, like, if you happen to be in a company employing Gen X and Gen Y, so there are expectations, okay, from each of those employees coming from different generations. So some common generational labels are if you are born 19 before 1945, so you are called matures. Okay, I hope that I don't have a student here, or, well, of course we will welcome them. Okay, is there anyone from you, okay, born before 1945? And then born those who were born 1945 to 1965, we call them baby boomers. um, 1966 to 1980, we call them Gen X or Generation X or Xers. And then born those who were born 1981 to 1990. Actually, it's 2005. We call them Generation Y or Yers, aka millennials. Okay? So I believe that you are all millennials, or you are already part of the so-called Gen Z or the Zennials, those people who are born from 2005 or 2006, sorry, 2006 up. Okay, but instead of us trying to define the characteristics cited for each of these groups, it is highly important for us to emphasize, for the employers perhaps to emphasize that people's expectations about psychological contracts differ between generations as well as within generations. So matures, okay, because in the workplace we will always find Gen X and Gen Y. Okay, so there are different expectations between these two generations, and so much so that there are different expectations happened among those who come from Gen X as well as those who come from Gen Y. So within their generation, they have different expectations as well, which would constitute this would constitute to such expectation would constitute to job satisfaction, loyalty, and commitment. Actually, I would like to apologize. I'm not feeling well tonight, so I just have to complete this recording for you guys. Anyway, so job satisfaction, loyalty, and commitment. When we say job satisfaction, it is about positive emotional state resulting to evaluating one's job experiences. And then we have loyal employees. They are more than just satisfied with their jobs, they are pleased with the relationships with their employers. Okay, And then organizational commitment is the degree to which employees believe in and accept organizational goals and desire to remain with the organization. Okay? Then employee engagement is a related idea, which is the extent to which an employee is willing and able to contribute. Okay, so these are the expectations that you have to manage. Okay, the employers expect that with the compensation, with the work environment that they provide, this would constitute employees to feel satisfied with their job. Okay, and so because of such satisfaction, they would develop loyalty, if I may say so, or emphasize this, that loyalty is one of the most expensive things in this world. Okay, satisfaction lead to loyalty. So I would encourage you to look for or to assess yourself and develop loyalty, because not all satisfied are loyal. Okay, you may apply that within your work or personal, dealings. Not all satisfied are loyal. Okay, so deal for loyalty. Okay, now, but not all loyal are also committed. Okay, so there needs to be like commitment. Okay, commitment would come into question as to like how serious are the employers to provide stable employment. Okay, how committed are you to stay within the company, and how committed are the employers to keep you, okay, and to sustain the business operations so that people would continuously feel job security. Okay, and so if people are satisfied, and so they are loyal and are committed, employees become more engaged with their work. Okay, so various researches actually have revealed that people who are relatively satisfied with their jobs are somewhat more committed to the organizations. Okay, so what are the factors affecting job satisfaction and organizational commitment? Okay, so as you can see the figure here, okay, we have the individual factors, the ability, motivation, and support, and there are just also job factors, okay, which happen to be in terms of the job design and the job elements. So this would constitute to whether you are satisfied or dissatisfied, and you have commitment to the organization. Okay, so this would depending on the results, this would constitute to absenteeism or turnover if you are dissatisfied. Okay, let's say you lose motivation to work because every time you go there, people or managers, supervisors are shouting at you, and then they don't have support. Okay, the duties and responsibilities actually are quite ambiguous, so that would constitute dissatisfaction. So you don't like your work. Okay, you don't like to face your manager because when you go there, you will be shouted at. Okay, so you will have to be absent, and eventually you will have to resign. Okay, give up. And that but the I just would like to emphasize this organizational commitment, that logical extension of organizational commitment here uh, focuses more specifically on the continuance commitment factors, which suggests that decisions to remain with or leave an organization ultimately are affected in employee or reflected, sorry, in employee absenteeism and turnover statistics. So, individuals who are not as satisfied with their jobs or who are not as committed to the organization are more likely to withdraw from the company. Okay, so the relationships among satisfaction, commitment, and absenteeism, and okay, this one, turnover, have been affirmed, okay, across organization and culture, uh, whether they employ full-time or part-time workers, and across all genders as well as occupation. Okay. All right. Going back to these individual performance factors, the relationship between individual employee and the organization helps clarify why people might leave a job, as does satisfaction, loyalty, and commitment. But for an employer to want to keep an employee, that employee must also be performing well. Okay, so there are three factors that affect how a given individual performs. So we have individual ability to do the work, effort expended, and organizational support. Okay, so I want you to take a look at in here when we say effort expended. Okay, what does it mean? So it has something to do with the motivation, work ethic, attendance, turnover, and job design. Okay, in a way that would uh, constitute to individual performance. And then the employee's individual ability, which comprises of the talents, interest, and personal characteristics, as well as organizational support. Of course, whether you have the, no matter if you have the effort expended or the individual ability, if there is no organizational support, so then there will be question about your individual performance. So what are these organizational support? Training and development, equipment and technology, performance standards, management and co-workers. So these are just example of organizational support. So individual performance is enhanced to the degree that all these three components, effort, ability, organizational support, these are all three components uh, present with an individual employee and diminished if any of the three factors is reduced or absent. So let's say if there is no effort, okay, there is ability, not but no effort. So there will still be question about individual performance. Okay, if there will be ability, oh sorry, and there is also organizational support, but there is no effort, again, there will be question with individual performance or any absent. If any of the three is absent, then it comes into question as to individual performance. Okay. All right. I was just thinking of giving you an example. So, for instance, assume that several production workers have the abilities to do their work, and then they work hard, but the organization provides outmoded equipment, or the management style of the supervisors causes negative reactions by the workers. So eventually, it won't work. Okay, the relationship of these factors here, is widely acknowledged in management literature as follows. So performance times ability multiplied to effort multiplied to support, that would constitute to individual performance. Okay. So there is relationship with performance when it comes to ability, as to ability, effort, and support. Individual motivation, when we talk about motivation, that is the desire within a person causing that person to act. Okay, So people usually act for one reason, which is to reach goal. Thus, therefore, the motivation is a goal-directed drive, and it seldom occurs in void. So the words like need, want, desire, and drive are all similar to motive, from which the word motivation is derived. Therefore, understanding motivation is important because performance, reaction to compensation, turnover, and other HR concerns are affected by and influence motivation. Okay? So take note about that one. Management implication for motivating individual performance. Okay, motivation is complex and individualized, and managerial strategies and tactics must be broad based to address the motivation concerns of individuals. Okay, for instance, uh, managers must determine whether inadequate individual behavior is due to employee deficiencies or inconsistent reward policies or low desire for the rewards offered. Okay, so additionally, managers may try training to improve employee performance or look at the methods by which they appraise and reward performance. So the relationship between individuals and their employers clearly affects retention of employees. So we talk about retention of human resources here. Okay? Retention of human resources must be viewed as a strategic business issue. Okay? Some employers perhaps have placed such a high priority on employee retention that they have designated retention officers. So that's how important it is, because if you are able to retain your employees quite a long time, okay, so that gives you added value and higher market value. Okay, so that constitute to the company's or organization's reputation. But what are the drivers of retention? Why people stay or leave? Okay, so take a closer look at this figure here. So we have characteristics of employer. Okay, people stay because of the employer. Okay, people stay because of employee relationships. People stay because of the rewards. People stay because of career opportunities, and people stay because of job design and work. Okay, so each of these one are also um, having an example. Okay, when we talk about um, characteristics of employer, so we have culture and values, management, and job security. We will discuss each one of these. All right, but the conventional wisdom says that employees leave if they are dissatisfied. Of course, right? And that the money will make them stay. Um, well, it is debatable. Okay. Uh, as I said, that conventional wisdom says that employees leave if they are dissatisfied, and that money will make them stay. Okay, it is quite a big word in here. Okay, will money make people stay? Okay, so that is the question. That's why I said it's arguable. Okay, but people often leave jobs for reasons that have nothing to do with the jobs themselves. So those characteristics of the stay or go decisions are personal and not entirely within the control of an employer. However, there are factors related to individual decisions that an employer can control. In a nutshell, we really cannot do anything if people leave. Okay. As to the decision of individual employees, we leave it to them. Okay. There are factors that no, okay, there are factors that no matter what you do, employees would still leave. Okay. They have their own reasons, and we cannot do anything about it. But there are really factors that company can control, and so that can keep people to stay. Okay, so these are the factors here. So we will start discussing first with the characteristics of the employer. Okay, well, organizations experience less turnover when they have positive and distinct cultures. That's one. Effective management and recognizable job security. So, employers must provide, okay, culture, okay, great culture and values. When we say organizational culture is a pattern of shared values and beliefs of workforce. Okay, for example, okay, they promoted honesty. Okay, so that by the time that you happen to leave your cell phone or your laptop somewhere else, it is the culture of the organization that even if no one is watching, okay, no one is going to, you know, uh, pilfer, okay, or steal your mobile phone or your laptop, okay. Management and retention, another characteristics of employer. There's other organizational components that affect employee retention are related to the management of the organization. So, how people are being would be reflected with the rate of retention. Okay, job security. Do you give your people uh, a sense of security in their job, a sense of, you know, being stable working with you or staying in the job? So all the, if they happen to see that people are the company has been laying off or downsizing, or happen to be merged and acquired by some other companies, or there are organizational restructurings, these all would affect employee loyalty and retention. Okay. Um, let's say you could just imagine, if I may take this as an example, in the business process outsource industry, you know, e-telecare was an entity. Okay, that was one of the biggest and most popular call centers in the Philippines. So, but then a few years after, Italicare was bought or merged by Stream. Okay, so how do you think people would feel? Okay, and then so there was no Italicare, and then there was Stream. Now, few years after Stream was being acquired by Converges, okay. Now, how do you feel? Okay, if you come from Italicare and now like being under Stream and now being under Converges, okay. And few years after, Converges was bought by Concentrix. So see, um, do you really feel secure with your job with all the merging and acquisition? Okay, there might be some benefits being taken away from them. Okay, when merging happens or when acquisition happens, so it's quite difficult. But these are controllable factors on the part of the employer. Okay, just to keep people from leaving. All right, sorry. Job design. Okay. Job or person match is okay. Part of the job design or job work design. Okay. Some jobs are actually considered good and others are thought to be bad. Okay. But not all people agree on which are which is which, right? And that people vary considerably in their preferences for particular job features. As a result, some people may like some kinds of work, and others also like different kinds of work. Okay, so if people do not fit their jobs well, they are more likely to look for other employment. So retention is affected also by the selection process. So you should, from the selection process, you should ensure, okay, to have robust job design. Okay, so an example here, we have job characteristics. So management, this is something that the management can control. Okay, we can control as to the clear definition of the tasks, clear-cut authority, the policy, the tools being provided, the variety, the time requirements, social opportunities, working conditions, stress. These factors here are controllable by the management. So this would constitute the job characteristics. But these aspects here are beyond the control of the management. So this cannot be controlled by the management, and this is about people characteristics. So say if the management happens to have, clear um, definition of all these stuffs here, and yet people are less motivated. They don't have the interest, they don't have the energy level, they don't have the personality variable. Okay, so basically, that's beyond your control. Okay, you might be asking, why are they selected? Okay, why are they hired? Sometimes people would be, quite too expert, okay, to present themselves very well. Okay, a part of the job design is about time flexibility. So this is about flexibility in work schedules, having growing importance. Okay, let's say um, managers would be given flexible time. Okay, work flexibility. This is about work-life balancing programs. Okay, and this commonly includes um, different work arrangements, leave for children's school functions, and compressed work week, job sharing, on-site child adult care. So all these stuff, commuting, employee assistance plans. So this would constitute work-life balance. Okay, like on our end, having a work from home would really work well on my end because driving is really very, you know, taxing these days, especially with the traffic. My goodness. So, if things go back to the new normal, if uh, people will be going back to the office-based work, um, I think I would still prefer to work from home, or let's say just 2 days working in the office and then 3 days working from home, because the driving and um, driving costs so much in terms of sorry, the amount of time, the amount of time, uh, the travel times. So you don't have quality uh, time to bond with your family. Okay, when you leave, they are asleep, and when you come home, they are asleep. So yeah, um, well, that is a part of the life, the reality that we have here. Okay, I just would like to add about time flexibility that workload pressures have increased because of perhaps some challenges faced by the company. So formal policies perhaps may indicate who is eligible for schedule flexibility. Not everyone can avail of time flexibility. So it should be handled well and with the guidance of the company or the organization. Okay. Now let's go to a training or career opportunity. Sorry. Opportunities for personal growth lead to list of reasons why individuals took their current jobs and why they stay there. Okay, you know what? This I'm going to share to you that I started working in Data. That was 2000. That was 2020, almost 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Um, and because I only stayed there for 1 year. When I first graduated, and Data was very sikat during that time. So I stayed there for 1 year and just a couple of months. And so because I was pirated by another company. But would you believe that after 20 years, there are still people working there? They were my batchmates. Okay? It's like 20 years working with Data. And I do not know what is their status of employment now, because during that time we were more of contractual. We had contract. So yeah, I was just trying to have such reflection that there might be something in Innodata that kept those people to work there. Okay, so in terms of career opportunities, this has something to do with training, development, and mentoring. So these are programs often contribute to higher employee retention rates. Employers must also identify ways to use employees' new knowledge and capabilities inside the organization. Training and development efforts are designed to meet many individuals' expectations that the employers are committed to keeping employees' knowledge, skills, and abilities. And mentoring can increase retention because it provides both career opportunities and development. So, mentoring can be formal or informal. Okay, career planning advancement. So, career development and planning efforts may include formal mentoring programs. So, let's say if you work, okay, and then like you apply for assistant um, administrative personnel. So, and then you will be groomed to become like uh, an office administrator. Okay, so the mentoring program will be provided by the company. So you will be trained. You will be having some duties and responsibilities um, tasked to you that you know or delegated to you by your superior in order to prepare you and hone further your skills. Okay, so employees discuss with their managers career opportunities within organizations and career development activities that will help the employees to grow. So, while organizations also increase employee retention through formal career planning efforts. So, this is aspect that can be controlled by the company. Next is about the rewards. Okay, I guess this is quite interesting, right? The tangible rewards that people receive for working come in the form of pay, incentives, and benefits, bonuses, allowances, all the stuffs. Okay, competitive compensation practices are keys to high retention rate. Okay, you must really pay your people. Okay, and the pay must be competitive. All right. So competitive, how competitive is competitive? Okay. So competitive pay and benefits. Pay and benefits must be competitive, which means they must be close to what other employers are providing and what individuals believe to be consistent with their capabilities, experience, and performance, sorry. Okay, of course, like the pay, the salary, the wages, the benefits will be discussed uh, during the onboarding or before the employee will sign the contract. It must be discussed during your job offer in order to make or to set the record straight and in order to quell any untoward expectations. Okay. Next is performance compensation. Okay. So this is about individuals expect the rewards to be differentiated from those of others based on performance. So this is actually performance based. Uh, individuals have expectations. Okay, if they perform well with their job, so then you know they expect that the employer will have to top up the compensation or pay. And performance management systems normally we have in the company as well as performance appraisal processes in organizations must be designed so that they are linked to compensation increases. So there are companies that would conduct performance reviews every year or every 2 years, or there are some companies that would conduct performance appraisal every 3 years. Okay, but um, employees who are being reviewed or appraised would somehow expect, okay, I do well, I did well, sorry, I did well, so I expect a raise. Okay, but of course, you know, strategy of the company that it's when employees perform well, it doesn't actually constitute a pay raise, not necessarily. Okay, because you can recognize them. So that is where the next factor for rewards is recognition. Okay, um, recognition is a form of reward that can either be tangible or intangible. So that's why we have here tangible recognition comes in many forms such as employee of the month, the plaques, okay, the certificates, okay, perfect attendance, okay, and all. Intangible and psychological, such as feedback from managers and supervisors, acknowledging extra effort and performance without monetary rewards. It's just like a tap on the shoulder or like an email to say, hey, you did well, okay? Or like a shout out, and then you have to recognize, hey guys, okay? Employee A, Jando, has achieved the sales target, something like that. So it's a form of recognition, intangible in nature. Okay, so let's go now to employee relationships. Okay, retention is affected in areas such as reasonableness of HR policies, the fairness of disciplinary actions, and the means used to decide work assignments and opportunities all affect employee retention. Other relationships that affect employee retention are supervisor or management support and coworkers relations. And major individuals build close relationships with coworkers. Okay, such friendship that may have developed do not appear on employee records, but studies or research suggests that they can be important signal that a workplace is positive. People would tell me, okay, you know what, sir, I stayed in that company for that long even if they are not paying that much because I had a lot of friends, okay? Or I like my manager or I like my supervisor, okay? So that matters with employee relationships, okay? It matters also having a good employee relationships in order to avoid legal, battles, okay? Which is a bit, related to our next topic, employee absenteeism, okay? When we say absenteeism, it is failure of an employee to report to work as scheduled or stay at work when scheduled. Okay, what are the reasons? Okay, why employees would be absent? Okay, oh sorry. Okay, as you can see here, they have personal needs. Ay, I cannot tell you specific um, matters because I am bound by confidentiality. But personal needs, entitlement mentality, see, stress, okay. Entitlement mentality that has something to do with the individual, okay. Of course, personal needs would also be about individual, okay. Family issues, okay. Personal illness, okay. How healthy is the employee, okay. Stress could be both, either the employee or the management. If the manager is giving so much stress to employee, so well, basically employee would be having successive absences, okay. And so okay, not all companies would have 18% personal needs and all, okay. This figure here was based on some data, okay. All right, what are the types of absenteeism, okay. First is involuntary absenteeism. So that is certain number of paid days each year for those absences that employees are allowed, such as sick leave, okay. Of course, we advise employees not to go to work when they are sick. Why? Because they are unproductive, and that is quite risky in terms of assuming responsibility if something bad happens to the employee within the workplace, because the employee has worked even if the management knows that the employee is sick. Um, so much responsibility to assume. And second is, if the illness is contagious, just like COVID, okay, so basically that would be very risky. Second is voluntary absences, when absenteeism is avoidable. Supposedly, okay, uh, entitlement mentality is avoidable. Okay, um, let's say that I have to be absent. Why? Because um, I just want to watch Avengers. Okay, that's avoidable. Okay, that's quite ridiculous. Employees can be absent from work. That's a fact for several reasons. So some absenteeism is inevitable because of illness. Okay, death in the family, and perhaps some other personal reasons, as I had mentioned. Okay, so such absences are unavoidable and, of course, understandable. Now we have here absences. How can we control absenteeism? One is, okay, controlling actually is a management prerogative. Okay, we have outlined policies. We have handbook for the employees to refer to um, as to absenteeism, but organizational policies on absenteeism should be stated clearly in an employee handbook, as I have mentioned, and um, it should be stressed by supervisors and managers. It should always be, or I mean, employees would be oriented and reoriented. Okay, so approaches to control absenteeism fall into several categories here. So we have disciplinary approach. So people who are absent the first time receive an oral warning, or depending upon the policy again of the company, and then the subsequent absences being issued with written warnings or suspension, and of course, absenteeism would lead to what? Termination or dismissal. Okay? Well, if you have some questions, guys, I hope that you find this really very interesting. Um, Feel free to do so. Okay. Second is the positive reinforcement approach. Okay. This includes such methods as giving employees cash, recognition, time off, or other rewards for meeting attendance standards. So let's say perfect attendance standards, okay, you have 1,000 bonus per month, okay, or anything else. Although, like being a consultant myself, um, I don't reward people who have perfect attendance. Why? Because attendance is an input, okay? And the concept for reward is that we reward output, okay? But well, of course, there are really people who would wanted to go for or organizations. Sorry, if there are really some organizations who would go for extra mile, and they from the very beginning lay down the rewards already, such as okay, just to encourage people to really come on time and not be late, so they have to reward perfect attendance. But you know what? Being an employee, that is your responsibility to come on time. The company that didn't tell you to come 5 minutes or 10 minutes before time. You only have to come on time. Okay? So reward output, do not reward input. But again, that concept is arguable. Okay? I'm not saying that, you know, you have to believe it. Okay, you just have to keep mind, okay, and be open about it. Okay, and work what's favorable on you if you are the HR manager. So if the if rewarding output works well with you, so then go for it. And if rewarding input from the very beginning, okay, works well in the organization, so then do it. Because offering rewards for consistent attendance and giving such bonuses for some fewer misses or miss out days, and using or converting unused sick leave are all positive methods of reducing absenteeism. Okay, if you really are quite also proactive, okay, let's say we are duty bound to by the law to um, offer sick leave, okay, with pay, okay, and then like people may tend to abuse it. So in order to discourage them to be absent and file for sick leave, you can offer and include it in your policy that you have to convert unused sick leave, so then people will not get sick. Okay, joke. um, the third approach will be combination approach. A combination approach is ideally rewards desired behaviors and punishes undesired behaviors. So this is more of a carrot and stick principle. You might be asking, what is a carrot and stick, sir? That's actually a reward and punishment approach, which uses policies and discipline to punish offenders and various programs and rewards to reward or recognize employees with outstanding performance. So a combination approach will be uh, more of a carrot and stick slash reward and punishment approach. All right. No fault policy. What is the no fault policy? With the no fault policy, the reason for absences do not matter. If people come to you and then you ask, "What's your why did you not come to work?" Okay? Well, that doesn't matter to you. The reason for absences does not matter to you, and the employees must manage their own attendance unless they abuse that freedom. There are really company that okay allow their employee to just simply be at work and then at home, But in the end, they have to they have to produce output. So long as they are able to submit the required output, so then they can, you know, go to the office and work, or they can just, you know, stay at home, and then in the end, they just have to do their work. Okay, not necessarily that they have to come to the office every day. So long as they don't also abuse that freedom, so but once absenteeism exceeds normal limits, all right, disciplinary action up to perhaps including termination of employment can occur. So if you found out that they abuse, so then you can terminate them. Okay. The advantages of the no fault approach are that all employees can be covered by it, and supervisors and HR staff do not have to judge whether absences count as excused or not excused. The last one is paid off program or PTO program. Okay, some employers have paid time off programs, okay, in which vacation time, holidays, and sick leave for each employees are combined into PTO account. Employees use days from their accounts under discretion for illness, personal time, or vacation. So then if employees under these circumstances, guys, if employees run out of days in their accounts, they are not paid for any additional days missed. Okay, so the program generally have reduced absenteeism, particularly 1 day absences, but they often increase overall time away from work because employees use all of their time off by taking unused um, days as vacation. Okay, this is quite interesting, no? Paying the time off program, just to, you know, motivate employees and to prevent them to continuously committing absences. All right. Now, how to measure absenteeism? Okay, or sorry, uh, this is about the control actions for employee absenteeism. Okay, so we mentioned about this one, right? Buyback, unused leave buyback, and then attendance reward programs, no fault policy. But it is a disciplinary action that is quite popular in here. Okay, and okay, so let's go now to employee turnover. Okay, so we have here different types of um, employee turnover. Um, we have here the involuntary turnover, and then that means that employees are terminated for poor performance or work rule violations. And then involuntary turnover is triggered by organizational policies, work rules, and performance standards that are not met by employees. Voluntary turnover, so employees they leave by choice, they resign. Okay, so they can be caused by many factors, including, of course, they found out greener pasture, because of the pay they leave. Okay, supervisor is not so good. Okay, location, that's about geography. Okay, and then the personal family reasons, I always have this, you know, reasons. Okay, because of, you know, some family issues that they have to leave the job. Then functional turnover. Okay, lower performing or disruptive employees leave. So dysfunctional turnover, key individuals and high performers leave at critical times. Okay, and then we have uncontrollable turnover. Employees leave for reasons outside the control of the employer. While controllable turnover, these are employees leaving for reasons that could be influenced by the employer. Okay, you might be asking, what is churn? Churn or churning is actually hiring new workers while laying off others. Let's say uh, you have observed your company that has been laying off employees while at the same time they are hiring. So basically, that is quite a bad faith, an action that constitutes bad faith. Why? Because the management may have some ulterior motives in doing so. They may not like the employees or to have more employees to attain regularization. So that's why they have to lay off. Okay. And so like they keep on hiring new ones in order for their operations not to be affected also. But that is really very costly. Okay. And somehow would constitute a lot of labor related issues. Now there are HR metrics, okay, to measure absenteeism and turnover, okay. So these are just some of the formulas um, suggested by the U.S. Department of Labor. This is Department of Labor, okay. So controlling or reducing absenteeism must begin with continuous monitoring of the absenteeism statistics. Um, if we wanted to measure absenteeism, so that's the number of person days lost through job absence during period over the average number of employees multiplied by the number of work days times 100. Okay, and then when we measure turnover, that's number of employee separations during the month over or divided by total number of employees at mid-month and multiplied it by 100. Okay, let me see if we have some sample problems here. Okay, oh, I forget to include it here. Okay, anyway, how to determine turnover costs? Okay, first we acknowledge that turnover means like separation, so there is what we call the separation costs. Okay, so HR staff and supervisor, this includes HR staff and supervisor time, the salary to prevent separations, the exit interview, and the time spent doing the interview, the unemployment expenses, legal fees, such as um, notarization. So these are part like accrued vacation, we have to pay them, and then other benefits. Okay, and some like companies are required to facilitate for a tax refund. Okay, so replacement cost includes recruiting and advertising expenses, search fees, HR interviewer, and all the stuffs. Okay, we also have training costs. Okay, and then the hidden costs, this include uh, hidden costs include costs not obvious but that affect lost productivity, decreased customer service, and unexpected employee turnover, missed project deadlines, etc. Hidden cost would mean like let's say you have a staff and then the staff had been having a lot of customers because of his service. Okay, and so like when he resigned, customers would feel difference in terms of service. Okay, so these are part of hidden costs. Now, how to manage retention? Okay, retention is critical because turnover such as or and absenteeism, if I may emphasize that, turnover and absenteeism can cause personal performance in otherwise productive units. Now, our focus turns toward what a manager can do about retention issues. So, we have measurement and assessment. Okay. We have absence turnover measurement, employee survey, exit interview. So these are actually um, tools, okay, or strategies that we have to use, um, measuring and assessing. Sorry about that. Um, Measuring and assessing um, turnover and sorry, retention, and then management interventions, have selection, orientation, compensation, um, and then the evaluation and follow up. Okay, so when we say evaluation and follow up, so there should be regular review, tracking of intervention results, and adjusts when it is needed. Okay, so it is here when we say retention measurement and assessment, we have exit interviews, sorry, employee survey. So, well, we conduct survey to employees just to, level up expectations and know what training programs they would wish to have, what development programs they would be interested. And then we also ask employees how do they feel with the job. So that will give us data for us to analyze. And now, if we are confronted with the problems, okay, and then people are leaving, people are resigning, people are absent from work, okay, so there is instability felt by the employer. So how can we retain good people from leaving our company? Okay. So based on the data that you probably have gathered, you should be able to come up with certain analysis. Okay, from the turnover, the records of absenteeism. We talk about survey, exit interviews. So, but normally exit interviews are not so, you know, would not bear so much weight. Why? Because sometimes, people leaving would be quite bitter. Okay. So exit interviews is an attempt to get at the cause of the retention problems. Okay. So what are the retention intervention programs? Okay, so these are just example of the possible retention interventions. Okay, so we have spot cash, good work, and all the stuff. Considerate supervisor, friendly work, culture, avoiding hiring those with history of turnover. Like normally, when I see on the resume that people are hopping from one job to the other, then I would say this person may be very difficult to retain. Okay, but of course, if the generation of the applicant who passed a resume with that job hopping uh, experience, and then that person is so young, then I would try to rationalize that perhaps this person is still looking for something. Okay, so I don't take it bad against the person. Okay, but if the person is around 40 years old and he has or she has not kept a job more than 2 years, oh, I would say that there must be a problem with this person. Okay. Oh, yeah, we this is the end already for our session 3. Now, I want you to make your questions to write questions. I want you to um, make comments on the lecture, the content only of the lecture, what you have understood so far, and the things that you wish to share, as well as if you have some questions, feel free to write in. Thank you so much, everyone.